Selling Coaching Nation, my name is Jeff St Laurent, and this is the Tuesday live show coming at you each and every week, consistently on Tuesdays at 12:05. Today's topic is creating content marketing consistently over time. How do we do that? Why do we do that? Why it's so important? How do you get past the struggle of not knowing what to say or talk about or write or etc.? So we're going to dive into that in just a minute. I do record all of my Tuesday live shows and I put them in my university at sellingcoaching.com. I help coaches transition to a full-time business. So I have a lot of great resources on that page right in my university. I'd have you start off with right on the homepage at sellingcoaching.com. Enter your name and email and you're going to receive an audio training on launching your coaching business, the first 3 vital steps. So that's a great resource there. And then also, if you're watching this live, we are doing another 14-day GoPro challenge starting next week, starting July 14th. If you're watching the recording and it's past then, just visit GoProChallenge.com to learn more details and find out when the next challenge is. But if you are watching live, visit GoProChallenge.com and check it out because the next one is a week away. And I've been having phenomenal results with the coaches that have been going through that. A lot of great stuff for the 14-day GoPro challenge. Learn how to become a professional, focusing on getting your message to market and getting you paid and teaching you that process that I've learned and adapted into my business and that I teach my mentor coaching clients, my group, and my one-on-ones. So strips away all the peripheral stuff and gets right down to business. Phenomenal stuff, if I can say that myself. So GoProChallenge.com. Visit it. Check it out. Love to have you in the next challenge. With that being said, let's talk about content marketing and creating content for that. And now let's forget about like the marketing aspect of that for a minute. And it's just creating content. And before I talk about, giving you maybe some use now strategies and some things that I think about, I've been doing weekly emails since 2005. I launched my business in 2004. I didn't start emails right away. And I really didn't understand the value of that. I started working with people and seeing it all. And I started launching that, I think it was early 2005, and haven't stopped since, whether it was my life coaching business or now as a mentor coach, helping coaches transition to a full-time business. Whatever it's been, I've been consistent with those emails, and not just an email a week. I've been doing 2 or 3 emails a week, even especially for the past 6 years. On top of that, I've written a book. I've done 4 different audio courses. I've created ridiculous amounts of seminars over the years. So I got crazy amounts of content generation, and I'm going to give you some of the things that I do to help me stay consistent with it. But first, we really want to understand the value in the consistency of it. And some people out there, you hear some other gurus, and I've seen other gurus teaching like, content marketing, don't do content marketing, and it's a waste of time, and you're blogging and you're creating videos and you're doing all these things, and it's not creating any new subscribers. It's not bringing any more people into your audience. Yet at the same time, I see these people doing content marketing. They're putting videos out there. They're doing weekly events. They're doing weekly emails, multiple emails a week on a weekly basis. They're creating content at the same time. And so if you're not doing content marketing, what are you doing? Well, now you're doing paid advertising, right? But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean paid advertising can't be effective, and a lot of people do it. But what I'll say is that start yourself off in honing your message. You're not going to create a paid ad and create the expenses around that, not only to have the people involved to help you put that together. It can get quite pricey. I know, I'm doing it. I do it now. And it's not easy. And even with that, that's only the front end that maybe gets you the lead. But what happens after you get the lead? And so whether you're doing any type of marketing, whether it's paid advertising or content marketing where you're putting stuff out there on a regular weekly basis, several times a week on a consistent basis, that gets you the lead. It gets you in front of people. And then, well, what happens once they come into your audience? How do we stay in front of those people? And so I talk all the time to my mentor coaching clients when I set them up on their structure, something like a weekly email, something like a weekly live show, something like this, whether it's a podcast, a live broadcast like this. Maybe it's, a record, like a a recording or something that gets them out there, whether it's a recorded interview maybe that they post live afterwards. It doesn't always have to be a live event, but it's something that can do on a consistent basis. A big reason why we require and need that consistency, number one, is because for people that come into our audience, we need to stay in front of those people. It's so vital we stay in front of those people because we want to go back to selling and what are the fundamental aspects of selling, and that is number one, someone has to have a need. What are the criteria needed, in other words, for them to be a potential client and potentially buy from you? They need to have a need, something that they're going after, something that they want to do. And the second piece is they need to have, the timing must be right for them to do something about it. Meaning we have to understand why is today different than any other day in the past that they've wanted to do this. Because most likely this isn't the first day that this need has popped up. It's the first day where it's the day where it gets bad enough or they're sick and tired enough where the timing becomes right. Now those situations are there where now they might have an interest or they might value. That creates a value premise for what you offer as a coach, being able to potentially help them through this or work through this, something that they might be able to get help with and find value in working with you where they're more likely to see than they would if they did it on their own because they've been trying it on their own or not trying it or going in circles, etc. for a while, right? So those things must exist. Now, when people come into our audience, the timing isn't always right now. In fact, for the vast majority of people, it's not right now. A very small percentage of it is right now, and that's where they might be like, oh my God, this is great. Oh my God, comes at the right time in my life. Oh my God, next thing you know, they're reaching out to you, they're talking to you, maybe you get a client. Wouldn't that be the case? Wouldn't that be lovely if that was, happened all the time? But that's not what happens all the time, and that's a very small piece of the percentage. So what we got to make sure is now that they're in our audience, however they are, ideally email list, in our email community, on social media platform, maybe a Facebook group, maybe they're connected to us via LinkedIn, they're connected to us on Instagram, etc. Whatever the case is, we want to stay in front of them. That's where our content marketing, or you could say it differently, content communications are vital because we need to be in front of them. If you're not in front of them on a weekly basis in this scenario, then that's kind of like inviting people to a party. And hey guys, I got a big party. I got a lot of stuff cool coming on. Come over on Saturday. People show up to your place and you're not there. And no one else is there for that matter, and they're just there. And all of what you put out and marketed to get them there was exciting and they connected with and they decided to show up. But now you're not there. And you're not there in front of them consistently. What's going to keep them at your party? Nothing. So at some point they're going to leave, right? They might consume maybe whatever's there. Maybe you left some snacks. Maybe you left the music playing. Maybe there's something on your website that they can look through, etc. Right? You get the parallel. So they have a few snacks. The music gets old. At some point they're going to leave. Or they're going to forget about you because they're going to carry on because guess what's happening? Their inbox is being flooded with other emails from other people who are being consistent with their emails and showing up and being top of mind. And guess what? When the timing is right, if you're not there, what chance do you have on them hiring you? You don't have a chance. And so that's the whole point is that once you put something out there and someone's attracted to what you do, you want to keep peppering them with weekly doses of something, a message, communication. Share something that you're going through. Share something that you're doing with a client. Share something, a personal experience. Relate that to the main point of what you're helping people with in general. The reality is when you send emails out, when you're doing videos like this, it's not that a very, very small percent of the population is actually consuming them. But the bigger point of that with the marketing is that they see your name for a brief moment in their inbox and they swipe and delete. That's what the majority of people will do. And now you're thinking, well, Jeff, why would I spend all this time, creating great content if no one's ever going to read it or listen to it or watch it? Well, it's because when the time is right for that person and your name shows up in their inbox or the video appears on their news feed in their, social media platform, etc., and the title captures their attention and they woke up that morning and the crap hit the fan and they're sick and tired and they're like, oh my God, and they're not feeling it, guess what? You're in front of them. And now all of a sudden the timing's right, it doesn't mean that they will hire. It just means that now you have an opportunity to create a conversation. They might reach out. They might react. They might write a comment, below that says, oh my God, thank you so much. This has been so valuable. This couldn't be better, or this comes at a timely time for me. Thank you so much. A general comment like that. Those are all opportunities for us to follow up on those comments, to dig up and see, well, what are you going through in your world right now? I'm curious where, this has been so valuable, or this information is so timely. That's where we get our clients from. And so the consistency of this is the big why in creating content marketing. And whether it's your primary source of marketing, right? So maybe you're doing paid ads. Great. Well, when the lead comes in, how are you staying in front of them, right? So I do some paid ads right now, and I get people into my audience, and they get an autoresponder, like an automatic email with the download that they're downloading, that I'm originally attracting them, and they get a few follow-up emails. But then after that, how am I staying in front of them, right? And they're on my weekly communications. So now I get to stay in front of them a couple times a week where I'm delivering some value. Maybe they unsubscribe, maybe they go away, maybe they never open any. However, I'm in front of them, and I give the opportunities to create connection, to build value, and to create value. So should they decide to say, should the timing come, I'm in front of them, and I want to have that opportunity to help them when the timing's right. Or if they're coming in just through some other things that I'm doing, like if I'm putting posts out there, I'm writing articles, I got a podcast, etc. I want to make sure I'm continually putting that stuff out there to attract more people, number one, and then to stay in front of those people for when the timing is right. And that's really the biggest why behind it all. And whether it's something you're doing virtually, or whether it's something you're doing in a face-to-face standpoint, right now with the world, it's face-to-face is very minimalized, and probably going to go back or regress, in the near future until something changes with this pandemic that we have. But with that being said, whenever you're listening to this, you could be listening to this years down the road in the recording, and at some point we're going to have face-to-face as a very viable option again. So whether they're, especially if they're coming in from there as well, you do a live seminar event in front of, let's say, 10, 15 people. I'm just using some modest, real numbers, 5 people. And those 5 people, maybe let's just use 10. Out of the 10 people, maybe one person was like, oh my God, and maybe they end up hiring you, right? Well, what about the other 9? I'm sure they loved your information, but how do we stay in front of them? What happens when the timing is right for their need? So if you go away from that event and you don't put these people in your email list, or worse yet, if you put them in your email list and then you never utilize it and stay in front of them on a weekly basis, you're as good as forgotten. You're as good as your last event. And that is a very steep, like you'll never make it in business. If you're not communicating via email on a consistent basis, if you're not putting out some regular information to stay in front of your audience, to contribute, build relationships, build value, nurture them, you'll never be able to stay in business, because you're only as good as your last event, meaning your potential client pool or potential sales for whatever you're offering are only as good as the last event that you do. So if I did that event in front of 10 people, I'm only relying on that one opportunity at that one still standpoint snapshot in time, in terms of timing wise, to get a potential client from these 10 people. Maybe one converts, maybe I get lucky, 3 or 4 convert, maybe 0 convert. Doesn't really matter. Whatever the case is, let's just say it's 1 with my original example. If you don't do any further regular communications after that, you're only as good as that last event. So now you're only going to have an opportunity to get another client when you do another event. And hopefully you're doing regular events repeatedly, but then you're losing the leveraged effect of I speak to 10 people this week. 1 hires me. What about those other 9? Now they stay in my email community and whatever other platforms, so I'm staying in front of them. And then let's say 2 weeks later, I do an event with 5 people. No one hires me. Those 5 people go in there, right? So now I'm up to 14 people. I do another event maybe a month later, or the next week with 6 people. No one hires me. They go in. Now that's 20 people in my community, right? So over time, I build and build, and now I'm up to 50. 6 months in, I've maybe gotten a few clients from those events, out of those events, but now those other 50 people, and guess what happens? Someone from that second or third event, timing hits, crap hits the fan, you're in front of them, they respond to the email, you make an offer for your coaching, and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to hire this person, or I want to learn a little bit more because I really need help right now, and you convert someone to a paying client. Those conversions over time, that's what you're missing out on. And that's where if you don't have a community that you're building and fostering on email as our primary choice, and then secondary and additionally to email would be on social media, because you don't know what's going to happen with social media. What happens if all of a sudden, right now in our world, there's a war between, President Trump and Twitter, and all of a sudden I don't know how it would happen, Trump shuts down Twitter. And you have all these Twitter followers and you have all this thing, and next thing you know, it's gone, right? Or Facebook happens and there's a controversy and blah, 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 because they helped so-and-so, with the new election get into office. And next thing you know, guess what? They have to shut down Facebook Messenger, or they shut down a portion that you were relying on. Or maybe all of a sudden now Facebook groups are banned, and you spent the last 5 years, like I have a selling coaching private Facebook group. Check it out. You go to sellingcoaching.com. At the top of every page is a link, to get over to the group. And I've got currently, as of this, live show, 2,500 closing in on, members. And if I didn't have any of those people on email and no other way to communicate them, and all of a sudden they ban groups, and those people are gone, like what happens? So we need them on email. We need to find a way to communicate. That's a big piece on the why. Now, a couple strategies in terms of creating content. First off, you're overcomplicating it. And I'm saying that because this is what I would have said to myself years ago when I was challenged with it. And I've never been paralyzed with it. I challenged with it, meaning that most of the time I never had any issues with writing an email or creating something. Like I found ways of what I wanted to say and what I wanted to communicate. And so I feel fortunate that I've had that. But along the way, I've definitely had challenges, like even as of, creating the email and coming up with a topic for this live show that I'm doing right now. How this came to be, and I'll share this is how we can create content, is I'm sitting in my office literally yesterday and I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to be talking about from this show? What am I going to write for this email? And I'm just thinking, I'm like, oh my God, I sound like one of my clients. I felt like one of my clients that are coming to me saying, I don't know what to do. And all of a sudden I'm like, duh. I'm like, that's it. It's creating content, how to create content for your marketing, content marketing. Like that's the topic. That's the email. That's the show, right? And that's where I find a lot of my content will come from is and this is my main strategy, and I'll give this to you, is that you've got to trust and allow that the content will come. And there's two elements to it. Number one, you have to have a schedule. You need to know when you're going to be creating your content. So for instance, on Mondays, I send an email. Tuesdays, I do this Tuesday live show. And on Fridays, I send an email. And I also share the recording of this in there. Now, along the way, on Mondays, I create a Facebook event to promote this. On Wednesday or Thursday, depending on the day, but usually it's Wednesday, I share my email as a post on Facebook and LinkedIn and some other social platforms, etc. So that's my baseline structure for doing this. So that's let's just call that my schedule. So now when Monday comes along, I know I've got to create a Facebook event with a topic and title for this Tuesday live show. I've got to create an email and send that out, right? So the schedule dictates when I need to create something. That gives me the consistency. And now when it's time to do that, let's say on Monday, then that's when I've got to trust and allow that, all right, well, I have a deadline. It's today. I've got to send the email by the end of today, by the end of my work day. So what am I going to do? So I have the deadline. So see, I'm creating the accountability for it. I'm creating the schedule for it. And what I do is I know that I've got to just search, and it's either going to come to me very easily, or I've got to search and I've got to think. And now I've done it long enough to know that, and I have got some evidence that if I trust and I just get to that space, that I will find something. And I will tell you, as I've told my clients too, like, it's not easy. Some days are like, oh my God, I know exactly what I'm doing and it's jumping right in front of me and it's exciting and I'm passionate about it. And then there's other days where I can't for the life of me figure it out. All of a sudden I just start putting something together and all of a sudden, boom, it explodes and now I'm excited and it goes. And then there are other days where it's just like, it sucks. I don't know what I'm doing. I put something together. It's okay. And I just got to send it out. It doesn't mean I don't get behind it or I hate it. I wouldn't send something out that I hate, But if I had to, I would, because I know I need to do it. And I know the value of it, which I just spent 20 minutes on helping you understand the value of it. And the difference of it is the reason I can do it so consistently, and the reason I can do it even when I don't want to do it and I feel like it's a blah, is because I've realized the results of doing it, especially when I don't want to. You might realize the results logically because I just explained them to you and you're like, okay, Jeff, sounds good. I'll take your word for it. But until the day where you do the email when you don't want to do it, or you do the show when you don't want to do it, and then you get a client because of it, that's the day that everything clicks and you go, you know what, I'm never going to miss an email again. That's when you turn it all around, when you realize the results. And that's when you've got to begin creating enough. And you start with one piece. You start with the first email. And then next week I'm going to do another email on Monday. And then you get to that Monday and you do that email. And that's how you start, very mechanically. And, there's all these hacks out there and these secrets to creating content and strategies. And I have a whole bunch more that I talk about with my clients and things like that. But I'm going to just keep you with the most basic one is the two elements. You need a schedule to know when you're going to do it and when you need to do it by. It gets create accountability, a deadline. And then trust that the topic will appear, and write something and get it out there. Whether it's any one of those three categories, you love it and it came easy, it started off hard and then you loved it, and then, or the third option is it just sucked all the way through and it just is what it is. You're better off sending the email, doing the post, doing the video, no matter what you feel about it, because you're getting something out there. And then also knowing the reality is that you're judging a lot more harshly than everybody else is. And also the harsh reality is that the reality is very few, if any, especially right away, are going to read it, listen to it, consume it. But there's still value of it being in their inbox so they can swipe and delete, or it's showing up on their news feed or wherever you are at, or posting it because you're top of mind. And that one time where you do it when you don't want to or you don't feel like it is the one time when that one person that you may or may not know sees it, consumes it, and goes, you know what? I got to talk to so-and-so because I really feel that they can help me. And that's the one time that you would have gotten a client. That instead, guess what? I'm going to get that client because I'm going to be out there consistently, or someone else is going to get that client because they're out consistently. And it doesn't mean that they're better than you. It doesn't mean that the content's better than you or they have more experience than you. Guess what? All that matters is that they're out there and they could be putting out crap. I've seen some stuff that I'm like, this is crap. This is crap. Like, I've seen it. I've seen crappy websites. I've seen, content that I'm like, it's felt misleading. It felt manipulative. But at the end of the day, you know what? I still gave that person credit. You know why? Because they got it out there. And that's the first and foremost and most important step.